Welcome back, podcasters. Today we're diving into one of the most fundamental yet often overlooked steps in creating a podcast: writing a script. Whether you're aiming for a narrative podcast, an interview, or even an educational series, a well crafted script can make your podcast sound polished, engaging, and cohesive. So, stick around and let's break down the process of writing a podcast script step by step. First, let's talk about why scripting is so crucial for a podcast. Writing a script helps you stay focused, it keeps you on track, and ensures that you're not wandering off topic. Reduce editing time. A clear script often means fewer mistakes and tangents, which means less editing later. Boost confidence. Knowing exactly what you're going to say can help reduce any nerves you might feel. Maintain a consistent flow, especially if you have recurring segments or themes. A script keeps things consistent. It doesn't mean you're reading word for word. You can have a structured outline or bullet points if you prefer a more conversational approach. Step 1 in the scripting process is planning your episode. Before you start writing, ask yourself a few questions. What is the main theme of this episode? Is it educational, motivational, or maybe story based? Who is your target audience? Tailor your script to their needs and interests. What tone do you want to convey? Casual, serious, humorous. Choose a tone that fits both the topic and the audience. Consider your episode length too. For example, a 30-minute episode might only need a light script, while a highly produced, scripted podcast might require a lot more detail. Planning helps set a strong foundation for the actual writing process. Next up is the outline, which is like a roadmap for your episode. A basic outline for a podcast script often includes the intro. This should hook your listeners and give them a sense of what to expect. Main points or segments. These form the core of your episode and cover the main content. Transitions. These keep the episode flowing smoothly from one point to the next. The closing. Here's where you wrap things up, provide a call to action, and thank listeners. This structure helps you stay organized and ensures you're covering all the points you want to discuss. Now, let's start with the intro. This is your chance to grab listeners' attention right from the start. Begin with a hook that's either interesting, surprising, or thought-provoking. Then give a quick overview of what's coming up in the episode. For instance, if your episode is about how to reduce stress, your intro could be something like, did you know that over 70% of adults feel stressed daily? Today we're diving into some practical ways to manage it. The intro sets the tone and helps listeners decide if this episode is for them. Be authentic, be direct, and don't be afraid to show your personality. Once you've introduced your topic, it's time to dive into the main content. Here's where you'll want to lay out your key points or segments. Make sure each point flows naturally from one to the next. If you're doing a solo podcast, write out your talking points and any anecdotes you want to share. For an interview, prepare specific questions to keep the conversation on track and think about follow-up questions based on the guest's expertise. A helpful tip: visual cues. If you're reading, highlight sections or use different colors to keep track of key moments like quotes or calls to action. Each point should add value and relate back to the main theme, so think carefully about what your listeners will gain from each segment. Now, let's talk about transitions. Transitions are small but mighty. They help you connect your ideas, making the episode sound natural and well paced. Use phrases like next we'll dive into or that brings us to guide listeners through the flow. If you're changing topics or shifting into a new segment, give your audience a clear sign so they know what's coming next. Finally, it's time to wrap up your episode. A good closing does two things: it leaves a lasting impression and encourages further engagement. Summarize your main points briefly and thank your listeners for tuning in. This is also a great place to add a call to action, whether it's asking your audience to subscribe, leave a review, or follow you on social media. You could say, If you found these tips helpful, hit that subscribe button and let's keep the podcast journey going together. With your full script written out, take some time to polish and edit. Read it out loud to catch any awkward phrases or repeated points. Try to aim for a conversational tone even if you're following a script. Avoid long, complicated sentences and remember that shorter, punchier phrases tend to keep your listeners' attention. One more thing, don't be afraid to improvise a little. Scripts are great for structure, but leaving room for spontaneity can bring even more life to your podcast. And there you have it, the essentials of writing a podcast script that's structured, engaging, and flexible. Remember, a great script doesn't make your podcast sound scripted. It just gives you a roadmap so you can deliver value with clarity and confidence. If this guide helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another tip. Thanks for tuning in and happy scripting!